helping people to understand that there is satisfaction and joy in giving. We have a new faculty member at our School of Philanthropy. Her name is Sarah Conrath. So keep an eye out or an ear out or keep looking at the publications in philanthropy and fundraising, because she studies the physiological and neurological satisfactions that come from volunteering and giving money. And she has data that demonstrate that people who volunteer their time and who give philanthropic gifts live happier, longer, healthier lives. Okay, so if that's true, I mean, we've always said that, right? We've always talked about the warm glow of giving and the joy of giving. But now we have data to prove that. Then I've always believed that one of our roles as a fundraiser is to give lots of people every day, the opportunity to be healthier and happier. So I'd be happy to talk with you about the types of gifts that you might make to any kind of philanthropy. All right? It encourages estate planning. What are the numbers on the number of heads of households in the United States? What percentage have an estate plan in place? Does anybody know the numbers?
Less than 10%.
Pardon?
Less than 10%.
Oh, it's higher than that. But it's right around 50%. Right around 50%. Meaning that half of adult households or half of adult heads of households do not have an estate plan of any sort, let alone a charitable bequest in their estate plan. No estate plan, period. Now, what are the disadvantages of not having an estate plan? You have no control over what happens to your assets upon your death. Okay? So you have, in fact, you do have an estate plan. It's just that you don't have anything to say about it. Somebody else is going to decide. Okay? Now, if you're okay with that, okay, fine. But if you're not okay with that, if you want to have something to say about the distribution of your estate upon your actuarial maturity, then you want to have an estate plan. Okay? So planned giving is a way to encourage people to make an estate plan. You don't have to promote the idea of charitable giving through that estate plan, but just promoting the notion of estate planning is a service to people. Okay? I mentioned this one earlier. Planned gifts often give us the opportunity to make a larger gift than we would otherwise make because we're giving now from assets as well as from income. Okay? That's a good thing, particularly related to legacy or a permanent memorial or an honor gift of some kind, the next bullet point there. Can make a gift with retention of income. I've always found this one to be really exciting about planned giving. And as I said earlier, you'll hear from the experts about how you can do this. So you give something away, but you get something back. You retain income. That's an exciting thought. Next bullet point is related to that. That can be for yourself, or it can be for beneficiaries, or it can be for both. Now, may have assets managed at low or typo. That should just say no, not now cost. Okay? All right. May have assets managed at low or no cost. Now, let me ask you a question about the general population in the United States. Okay? What are the distinct generations that you're familiar with and that you work with in your nonprofit work? What are the tags that we put on those various generations? Baby boomers. And baby boomers are, roughly speaking, what age? What's that? 50s and 60s. Okay. The oldest of the baby boomers are not yet 70 years of age. Getting darn close. Okay. And down to about probably the 50s maybe. Okay. So who comes after the baby boomers? What do we call them? This is an unfortunate label. Gen X. Yeah. Okay. So they would be roughly what? 50s down to about the 40s or mid 30s maybe. What's the next generation? Generation Y, and they're also called millennials. And then the youngest I've heard somebody call the youngest generation that we're dealing with right now, I've heard them called globals, which is an interesting term. But there's another generation that are still with us. The greatest generation. This greatest generation is some of are still with us, right? Okay. That's the group I want to talk about right now relative to that bullet point about can have assets managed at low or no cost. What do you know about the greatest generation in regard to married couples? Okay. Who typically managed the finances in a married couple of the greatest generation? The male. Okay. Who lives longer? The women. So the women now have an asset that they have little or maybe no experience at managing. And they may be concerned about that because they don't know how to manage that asset. It becomes, in some regards, a headache. I don't know what to do with this. I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. Okay? Someone like that may be a very prime prospect to be involved in a planned gift for that very reason, that they can have that asset managed by another party, and it could be no cost or it could be very low cost. Okay? And it could do some of the bullet points above it as well. It can provide them income, steady, predictable stream of income. Okay? So once again, talking to someone in that particular age group from that perspective, we can help you with this. We can reduce your anxiety in regard to that asset. And would you be interested in doing that if we can show you how? And then say, yeah, I'd like to learn more about that. Now you've got an open conversation about a planned gift. All right? And we've talked about this one, and you'll hear more about this later. But many of these gifts have one or more of these one or more of these tax savings. It can be income tax, it can be estate tax, it can be capital gains tax. One or more of those may apply. All right? So why planned giving from a donor's perspective? You've got two lists of reasons here from a donor's perspective. What about from the organization's perspective? Why planned giving? It's another way for people to give. Okay, it's another option for people to give. Create endowment or stability. And generally speaking, organizations who are involved in planned giving and accept planned gifts of various types, generally speaking, those organizations will put those planned gifts into an endowment, or they will create an endowment if they don't already have one. There's no legal requirement to do that, but from an organizational perspective, I think there's kind of an ethical consideration that the person spent a lifetime building this asset up. We should try to protect it as long as possible and help to protect our organization as long as possible by putting a planned gift into an endowment, not putting it into the annual fund. Okay? Now, sometimes you're in a bind and you have to use a part of a planned gift or a planned gift in the annual fund, and it's okay, but for the most part, we're trying to keep our own stability in place. Okay. Actual received gifts on a regular basis that add to the organization's income holdings. You may have, if a gift is made through stock, you have the immediate income advantage of that. If you have a charitable lead trust, you have some income from that for a period of time. So that's actual money in right now. Some of these gifts are irrevocable. That is to say, once they are in place, they are in place and they cannot be changed. And if you're the beneficiary, you're going to be the beneficiary. So it can be, you can have kind of a predictable stream of income over the years. And sometimes a donor changes a bequest to a lifetime gift. Okay, so they'll use a different kind of planned gift instrument to help you in a more immediate way. All right? And future gifts through estate planning and bequests. A bequest might be a first gift, and then there may be a trust added. There may be an annuity created. So you could have kind of a cumulative effect of donor generosity. And an organization that has a great